Nike was once the leader of the entire sports world, from the tracks of Oregon to every Olympic stage, but now that empire is crumbling layer by layer. In just a few short months, they lost over $40 billion in market value. The stock is in freefall, sales are plummeting, the stores are overflowing with sale items. What's really going on inside Nike? A brand that once had the world bowing before its swoosh logo is now struggling to sell the shoes that were once the stuff of dreams. Has Nike gone too far in its ambition to become a tech giant? Or did the decisions made within the Oregon Valley itself cause them to lose their sporting spirit? In this video, let's retrace the steps, from financial reports and confessions from former employees to consumer backlash. And the story we uncovered might not just be the downfall of a brand, but it's a wake-up call for every empire that ever thought it was invincible. Before Nike lost $40 billion, they were once the dream the whole world wanted to reach. But to understand why America turned its back, we must start from when they made this entire country hold its head high. No one expected that the story of a multi-billion-dollar empire would begin with an ordinary car trunk in Oregon. Phil Knight, a failed track athlete, along with his coach Bill Bowerman, had only a few test-running shoes, a dream, and a just-do-it spirit. They named it Blue Ribbon Sports, and then one day, the word Nike appeared, named after the goddess of victory. The swoosh logo cost only $35, the price of a pizza, but later it became the $40 billion symbol we're talking about today. From the trunk of a car to the world, Nike doesn't just sell shoes. They sell the feeling of, I can do it, and that's what America craves most. In the 1980s and 90s, America was changing, confident, outgoing, and ready to break boundaries. Nike didn't just follow that trend, they led it. From Michael Jordan soaring through the air to Tiger Woods bowing before the championship trophy and Serena Williams clenching her fist in victory, Nike transformed sports into a symbol of human aspiration. In 2016, Nike achieved a revenue of $32 billion USD, which is equivalent to the GDP of a small country. The global market share for athletic shoes is 38%. For every 3 pairs of shoes sold, more than 1 pair bears the swoosh logo. The Air Jordan line alone brings in $5 billion annually, more than many shoe companies combined. Nike became the embodiment of the American dream. They told the world that if you have a body, you are an athlete. No need to be famous, no need to be perfect. Just dare to run, dare to do. Nike is no longer a brand. Nike is an identity. Carrying Nike means carrying the spirit of America. Daring, freedom, victory. In the dazzling glow of million-dollar advertisements, something is gradually changing that few people notice. Nike began selling stories more than products. The creativity that ignited from the Oregon laboratory was gradually replaced by a dazzling marketing campaign in Hollywood. When the story becomes more important than quality, the foundation of the legend begins to shake. The shoes were still selling well, revenue was still increasing, but in the boardroom in Beaverton, Oregon, a decision was being prepared. Nike would no longer be just a shoe company, but a sports technology company. In 2016, founder Phil Knight stepped down. Mark Parker's successor, a symbol of the golden age, is also preparing to hand over the reins. And in 2020, a new name emerged, John Donahoe, the former CEO of eBay and ServiceNow. For the first time in history, Nike is led by someone who wasn't born into the world of sports, but into the world of technology. Nike believes the future lies in data, in apps, in clicks, not on the playing field anymore. A bold, logical decision for the digital age, but at the same time, a simmering crack in the brand's soul. As the world recovers from the storm, Nike is no longer in its familiar position. Perhaps in its attempt to become the company of the future, Nike has forgotten why it was loved in the past. From here, the story takes a turn. Nike is no longer running to lead. They've started running to catch up. And when a giant has to learn to run again from scratch, that's when the real secrets begin to surface. In 2020, as the world was paralyzed by the pandemic, Nike stood at a crossroads. On one side is the familiar path, sports, emotions, people. The other side is data, technology, and algorithms. And they chose the Silicon Valley path. When John Donahoe, who previously ran eBay and ServiceNow, walked into Nike headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon, the atmosphere changed. This is no longer a shoe company. It's a $50 billion global startup looking to transform into a data platform. He believes the future lies on phone screens, not running tracks. The new strategy is named with a lot of energy: consumer direct acceleration, direct sales, reaching customers without intermediaries. Nike began cutting over 30% of its distribution channels, including Foot Locker and Macy's, stores that once displayed the swoosh logo on every street corner in America. Goal: focus all efforts on direct sales through the website, SNKRS app, and exclusive store network. A figure that stunned investors. Online sales increased by 82% in 2020 alone, an unprecedented leap in the company's history. The SNKRS app has over 160 million global users, with millions of shoe hunts every day. Nike announced record profits during the pandemic, as if they had just hacked the future. But every revolution has a dark side. When you move from a store to a screen, you're not just changing how you sell, you're changing the very soul of your brand. But you can measure sales with data, but you can't measure trust with an algorithm. After the pandemic, the world is reopening. Consumers are flocking to the streets, but they're not turning to apps. They're going to stores. And on the empty shelves where Nike once reigned supreme are now new brands: Hoka, On Running, New Balance. Nike lost its place, lost my sight, lost all physical touch points with consumers. As a result, inventory began to pile up. Inventory reached 9.7 billion, equivalent to 100 million pairs of unworn shoes. The stock price fell 20% in a single day, wiping out over $40 billion in market value. More than 1,500 employees were cut in a $1 billion cost-saving plan. Images of a giant warehouse piled high with shoes like a sea of cardboard boxes went viral on social media, a symbol of the inventory glut that overwhelmed the entire empire. For 30 years, Nike has always been ahead, but now they're drowning in their own shoes. The question began to spread across Reddit, Twitter, and even within the company itself. Is Nike becoming a victim of the very digital transformation strategy it once boasted about? The virtual success of e-commerce made Nike believe that numbers are everything. But while they were busy analyzing user behavior, they forgot something simple. Runners don't need algorithms. They need feeling. The sports communities that were once the soul of Nike are gradually dissolving. The Nike Run Club app, which once had millions of active users, is now experiencing a significant drop in engagement. Consumers complain, Nike is now just selling hype, not emotion. Quality decreases, prices increase, and advertising is empty. A viral comment on YouTube. They used to be symbols of aspiration. Now they are just symbols of marketing. Nike, the brand that once told the world to just do it, is now seen as just sell it. When you optimize every click, you can forget every heartbeat. That's when consumers started to leave. They didn't shout, they didn't boycott, they just quietly chose other brands. Hoka with its true cushioning, On Running with its true running experience. It was the quietest but most painful departure, the departure of trust. In 2024, the first quarter financial report showed an 8% decrease in sales, the worst in 2 decades. The competitor is experiencing double-digit growth. Investors are panicking. News outlets unanimously published, "Is this the end of Nike's dominance?" For the first time in 30 years, Nike is no longer in the lead. They are running out of steam in the very race they started. Nike thought they were transforming into the future. But when a brand is built on emotion, connection, and story, data, no matter how perfect, cannot replace the feeling of belonging. Can you love a brand just because it understands you through data? Or do you only love when someone understands you as a real person? When passion is replaced by algorithms, the real storm has only just begun. With Nike, numbers never lie. But this time, the numbers themselves told a story they didn't want to hear. Americans, who once loved them the most, are turning their backs. Once a dominant brand for nearly half a century, Nike is now witnessing a quiet but decisive exodus. It's not a boycott movement, but a collective indifference, where consumers simply don't care anymore. On the forums, complaints are pouring in. I paid $80 for shoes that make my feet ache. My old Nike shoes lasted 5 years without tearing. Now, after only 5 months, the glue is coming off. Nike only knows how to advertise, they're no longer creative. Americans are not fond of making a fuss when leaving something they love. They simply silently withdraw their wallets and move in the other direction. Nike's sales in the US declined consistently for 3 quarters, while Hoka and On Running grew by over 30% each quarter. The Pegasus line, once the king of the running track, has now been surpassed by Hoka in the most popular running shoe category. A 2024 survey shows that only 38% of young Americans still consider Nike an admirable brand, the lowest in 20 years. Consumers are no longer buying logos. They are buying real experiences, real value, and real emotions. And so, Nike didn't lose because their opponent was stronger, but because they lost their most authentic version of themselves. With every pair of Hoka shoes sold, it's not just a transaction, it's a vote against Nike. Once the world's coolest brand, Nike now has to offer discounts to sell its products. Outlets, once only selling out-of-season goods, now account for over 40% of mass-market shoe sales. In shopping malls, the sale 50% signs with the swoosh logo are now as common as Starbucks. When your product is every place, it's no longer a dream. It's just inventory. The words of a former Nike marketing director cut straight to the truth. Air Force One, the shoe that once defined streetwear, now only survives thanks to new colorways. Every year, dozens of limited editions are released, but no one really feels limited anymore. If you were to line up all the Nike shoes in stock from 2023, you could cover nearly 800 NFL football fields. Discounted goods doubled in 2 years. Nike's profit margin fell to its lowest level since 2011. When scarcity disappears, the feeling of desire also fades. Nike used to sell a state of mind, confidence, success, being different. But when anyone can buy a pair of Nikes at an outlet, the symbolism fades away. They tried to democratize privilege and lost both. When what once made you special becomes ordinary, what do you have left to be proud of? In marketing, this is called the emotional breakpoint, the moment when customers no longer feel any emotion toward the brand. For Nike, that happened when they stopped connecting with the sports community, where they were born. Nike once dominated the running world, from stadiums to morning parks. But in recent years, independent running groups have switched to Hoka and On, where they feel genuine interest, not an advertising campaign. Nike used to run with us. Now they just want to sell to us. That's the quote from a runner in Colorado, taken from a Morning Brew survey that perfectly sums up what's happening. Nike is no longer running with its customers. They're running behind them. At the same time, Nike lost many legendary brand ambassadors. Tiger Woods parted ways after 27 years of collaboration. Serena Williams is taking a break from playing. Jordan, though still an icon, has become a world unto itself. Nike has lost the emotional torches that illuminated the brand for decades. Americans don't hate Nike, they just don't see themselves in Nike anymore. Consumer backlash doesn't just stem from the product, but from trust. They felt Nike had become too big, too distant, too cold. A brand that once ran alongside you now looks at you through a data dashboard. That emotion spread quickly like a domino effect. Investors sold off their shares. The store is having a massive sale. Consumers chose silence, but their silence is a fatal blow. It's not a scandal, it's not a shock. It's just millions of small decisions, each person not buying once. And in that moment of silence, amidst declining sales and shattered trust, a question echoed within the very headquarters of Beaverton. How do you save a legend when the legend itself has forgotten why it was born? After every storm, there is a lull, and in that silence, one could hear sounds that no one had noticed before, the sound of regret and the desire to start over. Beaverton, Oregon, Nike's headquarters, is still lit up at night, but there are no more tense meetings or dazzling product launches like before. Just silent corridors, the walls displaying shoes still bright, but that light no longer reflects pride. In the outlets, the swoosh logo still hangs high, but beneath it are boxes of shoes stacked high, discounted by up to half, like a mythical icon looking back at itself, a misguided victor. After 60 years of conquering the world, that icon has run out of steam. But it was in that silence that something strange happened. Nike started listening. Listen to the customer. Listen to the community. And they heard again the question they had once forgotten. Why were we loved in the first place? Inside closed-door meetings, Nike executives began to dissect the entire strategy. The slides that were once filled with the keywords digital, data, and automation are now replaced by two simple words: sport and soul. A longtime marketing director revealed, "We got caught up in measuring everything, except emotions." That statement was like a belated confession. Nike understands that if they want to make a comeback, they need to reconnect with sports, with athletes, with real people, not just the graphs on a screen. Nike is beginning a large-scale inventory clearance, closing down weak product lines. R&D budget increased by over 25%, focusing on genuine footwear and sportswear technology. Internal leaders spoke of bringing back the soul as a campaign for spiritual reconstruction. The fall made them realize that the problem wasn't sales, it was meaning. A new wind is beginning to blow through Beaverton. It wasn't the sound of rising stocks, but the sound of footsteps. Athletes testing new shoe prototypes again in the lab. Young designers are returning to the drawing board, talking about authentic experiences instead of user interaction. Nike hasn't fully recovered yet, but they're showing signs of life, like an athlete after a fall, lying still for a moment, then gently clenching their fist, taking a deep breath, and preparing to get up. Perhaps they just need to remember why they started. An old friend returns. A new belief has been ignited, and this time Nike isn't talking about data. They're talking about people. When a great icon falls, the question isn't, can they survive? But rather, will they dare to return, but more truly, more humanly, and more courageously? After years of turmoil, Nike called upon someone who understood their soul better than anyone else. Elliott Hill. The man spent 32 years at Nike, from intern to product manager to global president. Someone who doesn't come from Silicon Valley, but from the track. The day he returned, the atmosphere at the Beaverton headquarters changed. No more PowerPoint slides about data optimization, just a whiteboard written by hand. Bring sport back to the center. Hill understood that what Nike had lost wasn't sales, but athletic energy, the human heartbeat. He declared, "We will lead with sports, not with algorithms." Hill kicked off a new multi-year creative cycle, focusing on high-performance athletic shoe technology. Nike is partnering with Foot Locker and Dick's Sporting Goods again after many years apart. They signed Caitlin Clark, the women's sports icon who is changing American basketball. And shockingly, the team left Adidas, ending a historic 70-year partnership with the rival. Nike's comeback isn't about being louder, it's about them returning to themselves. In Beaverton, the R&D lab is lit up again, like in the early days when Phil Knight was testing shoe soles on a waffle iron. Young engineers, designers, and athletes test new shoes in the lab. Sweat, curiosity, and genuine passion are back. For the first time in many years, Nike isn't talking about marketing. They talked about the technology of the shoe sole. They talk about movement. They talk about feelings. Nike increased its research and development budget by over 25%, a seemingly small figure. But in financial terms, it's the bet of someone about to make a comeback. Nike can't beat its competitors by becoming a copy of them. It has to win by returning to the reason it was born. If in previous years Nike said, "Buy what we tell you," so now they whisper, "Try what you feel." Hill's new strategy doesn't rely on buzz, but on emotional connection. Less flashy, more real sweat advertising videos. The brand story is no longer told through words, but through the actions of athletes on the track. Nike wants consumers to experience the feeling of just be it, being true to themselves, not just buying to show off. Do you dare to believe that a giant brand can be humble enough to start over from scratch? Nike lost $40 billion, but they just found something priceless: their soul. And perhaps the journey back didn't begin with a revolution, but simply with a run, a real one. Nike once taught the whole world to believe that if you just dare to do it, anything is possible. But in the endless race to reach the future, they forgot the simplest thing: why they started running. Nike didn't fall because their opponent was stronger. They fell because confidence turned into arrogance. Because they forgot that a brand only lives as long as it is loved, not just when it sells well. The lesson is within every business and every person. When you're successful for too long, it's easy to forget what it feels like to start from scratch. And sometimes the only thing that saves you is going back and starting over like in the beginning. Nike has begun to revitalize, not with slogans, but with truth, with people who are truly running, truly creating, and truly believing. If a great brand like Nike can lose its way, then what guarantees that we won't? Are you running for yourself or for the race someone else has set? Are you doing what's expected or what truly makes you come alive? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Do you think Nike can return to its former glory? And in this volatile world, what keeps your own Just Do It flame burning? Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery, the rise and fall of Nike. A story not just about a brand, but a mirror reflecting ourselves. If you love stories that decode business strategy, branding, and culture, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next journeys, where we'll explore why empires rise and why they fall. All information, data, and opinions in this video are compiled from public sources, financial reports, and independent analyses. The video is not intended to attack individuals or organizations, nor is it investment advice. The sole objective is to extract practical lessons, strategic perspectives, and the humanistic values behind the brand story.